from nowhere, or Vietnam. Many people call this Nowhere, Vietnam. The title of our talk and our session today is very interesting, very exciting, is Kindness Without Limits. This is a good phrase, a good word, a good teaching to kind of put at the center of our spiritual practice and path. If you can't be kind, how can you face yourself? How can you face the body? How can you face the mind? How can you face life with all the suffering that life does have? So this will also be Q&A because I'm made some post on Reddit. So some people over on Reddit are asking me some questions, and I'll kind of be going through them and answering them as we're live streaming here. And who knows, maybe we'll have some new friends show up and ask questions in the live stream as well. So welcome in, get comfortable, get settled, and I hope that this will be a nice place for you to experience peacefulness. I know it looks bad. People show up on this live stream, they expecting, some kind of monk-esque spiritual teachings, and you see somebody looking at their phone, but there's nothing actually wrong with that. I'm looking at the incense here. So much of life is this raw experience. And we kind of discredit. We've almost been trained to discredit the validity of this raw, lived, direct experience. But looking at the nature, it can be the trees in the wind, or it can be just the incense moving through the air, or how light reflects on the water in the ocean. There's subtle sounds. Where we go into this space of being embodied and really being a human being, and that our direct experience is not in any way based on words or phrases. And you can't practice meditation if you can't digest this, if you can't accept this. And the deeper that you wish to go in meditation, the more you need to be open to this way of seeing and hearing and breathing and being and experiencing. That most of life is not about or made up from words and phrases. And so we're going to go into some words and phrases as we answer these questions. And feel welcome to ask your own questions as well, and to share kind words, kind and generously. All right, so this person says, as someone who has done meditation extensively, what is your view on the jhanas? Do you think they are useful on the path? If yes, what level of absorption would you say is ideal for jhana practice? Jhana is just like deep states of meditation or deep states of calm abiding in what is here and now without seeking for something else. And this also is kind of how we get to feel invited and feel brought into our intimacy with our direct experience that's not based on words and phrases. However, seeking after these experiences or developing attachment to these experiences, whatever they are, can be problematic. Essentially because the nature of seeking to grasp, to get, to achieve, to get a hold of that deep state of meditation is what keeps you from that deep state of meditation. And from what I've heard, this meditative absorption state is actually not required for insight into the way that things actually are here and now. I was a monk for 7 years, but I'm not a monk anymore. My biggest advice for procrastination is let go of the idea that you have of yourself as being someone who does this thing or doesn't do this thing, and just do whatever is most peaceful, rich, and rewarding here and now. find your peaceful, balanced silence. You'll never find that outside in the world. Turn the mind around, come back to center. The more experience you have, the more responsibility you have. Be completely still and silent. It's very, very important. Very, very important. That we can stop what we're doing. If you can't stop what you're doing, then you are not doing that. It's just compulsion doing it. So you are your true self, your true heart. That comes from stopping, not from compulsive doing. This work that we're attempting to do on the path cannot be done in the realm of the intellect. Without generosity, without self-sacrifice, this isn't just giving donations, but it's giving ourselves. It's a mind of pursuing the path, pursuing a resource, pursuing the practice. Pursuing stopping. Yeah, recognizing my psyche as being no other than awareness as it is right now. I can be in a non-conflictive relationship with my ego and with the appearances that are connected, seemingly, to this body and this mind. So my life of being a monk, living in community, living through generosity, living through the kindness of others, has given me a lot of hope and peacefulness in terms of more and more faith in taking refuge in that awareness rather than the ego's meandering. Because the ego or self-narrative will always fail. There's no structure, there's no situation, there's no relationship that can be built up that isn't subject to impermanence. So realizing that my ego depends on impermanence, I can be much more flexible about not attaching to what appears, and that leads to a lot of kindness and openness and gentleness in my life. Okay, so another question here on Reddit. Um, Ajahn Sona often criticizes the way Westerners define the word mindfulness. We often see it as a kind of just paying attention. He says mindfulness actually means something more specific, like mindfulness should be a gatekeeper of negative hindrances, and mindfulness should be actively used to be cultivating more skillful mental states. Whereas Westerners believe mindfulness means just a kind of paying attention to whatever it is you're doing. What do you say? Well, I think that's completely accurate. So mindfulness without detachment in Buddhism is nothing. It's just like, being normally aware. So the mindfulness with detachment is the essential practice of real mindfulness. Because the reason for more and more suffering is because we're more and more attached to appearances, to pleasure, to pain, and perpetuating clinging. But if we can be mindful and not attaching, not grasping, not chasing, and not avoiding anything, then we can cut We can finish, we can end, we can resolve our unwholesome states of mind, and we can naturally cultivate wholesome states of mind. And this detachment is not accessible at the beginning. You're not going to have a capacity to be detached because your entire life has been based in grasping and attachment. So that's why the formation, the basis of the preliminary entry to developing on the Buddhist path is generosity. If you don't have generosity, if you don't have self-sacrifice, if you don't have a willingness to give up, to give away, to put yourself, to get out of your own way, basically, then you can't move forward. You know, I was telling the people, some of the people who asked questions on Reddit, that most of the value that I've gotten from being on this path directly relates to direct experiences with people who have also been on the path. There was never a specific meditation method or a specific philosophy or a specific kind of response to a question that I received that made my path, flourish. It was my willingness to sacrifice. It was my willingness to go forward and flesh out these relationships with meditation-based communities or meditation masters. And that's a big reason why I teach and share and invite the way that I do, because I don't think that there's a more realistic way to contact the Dhamma than by contacting fellow practitioners and by connecting with someone that you can connect with seriously, who's on the path. Okay, so someone said, you don't exist, so who's writing this? And you can also say that, right? Well, according to Buddhism, you don't exist, or I don't think I exist. So who's conducting this live stream? Who is it that is doing all this? Well, it's basically cause and effect only. This is just cause and effect expressing itself. There's no real true person, there's no real true situation. It's an appearance. Actually, nothing is going on here. And in fact, it's cause and effect of ever new impermanent nature. It's kind of like if you want to arm wrestle, right? You want to get involved, you want to try, you want to experiment, you want to experience the path, right? And most people are kind of just putting out their pinky finger and they're trying to do a arm wrestle, or they're trying to meet the path, they're trying to understand about Buddhism and get answers to their questions and, get more involved in Buddhism by grabbing on by their pinky. You've got, when you see a hand out there connected to a good strong arm, as far as you know, as far as you can see, it's just an appearance anyway, but you've got to reach your arm out there and grab a hold of that other hand and pull. Arm wrestling is all about pulling. But if you don't grab a hold of that person or that situation or that opportunity or that Dhamma, that phenomena, that access point, that path, you're never going to get anywhere. You have to grab a hold and show up and be here and connect with it. Everybody wants to complain, or whine about, and there's some truth to that, that this person's a millionaire and this person's so beautiful and this person's so healthy and this guy was a monk for 7 years and has trained with meditation masters, and look at me, I'm just some, quasi-Buddhist who hasn't been a monk and hasn't trained with meditation masters, and I'm just starting the path, and this person has so much more experience than I do. That's not fair. It's not the point. We're here on this path to help each other, to support each other. There's an old traditional saying, if you want to go up the mountain path, talk with someone who's been along that path as well. If you want to meet the Buddha, you've got to go and meet the Buddha. You don't send a letter to the Buddha. If you want to practice meditation, you practice it. But most people are going to need support to do that. They're going to need direct guidance. They're going to need community. They're going to need a way to be generous, a way to volunteer, a way to self-sacrifice. Otherwise, they're not going to get anywhere in their meditation, because it's still all about them. It's about their idea of themselves. This is experimentation, exploration, engaging and inviting. That's what this is. So what's the difference between meditation and disassociation? In meditation, we're practicing to be fully aware, fully present with what is here and now. That meditation, or that being fully aware with what's happening here and now, has nothing to do with any story about the world, about ourselves, about anything at all. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything. So there's nothing to disassociate from. We're cutting off all the stories that we tell ourselves or that the world tells us, and we're just practicing to be aware. In meditation, you're just being aware. In disassociation, you're kind of not being very aware. And maybe not being very aware in relationship to something or someone or some situation that you identify with. So it's not just mindfulness that is important, but mindfulness with detachment. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what the thought is. It doesn't matter what the feeling in the body is. It Doesn't matter how you related to it in the past. Doesn't matter how you've been relating to it in the now. Doesn't matter how you will likely relate to it in the future. What you are mindful of here and now, don't attach to that. And in doing this, we have to be very patient and open with ourselves. Really, we have to be patient and open to the faults that we have and also to the successes that we have. You attach to your fault, you attach to your error, you're falling down the well. You attach to your progress or your success, you've got a hook in your lip bringing you up to a heavenly state that you're now going to be attached to. And so when you come out of the well, you're going to be covered in muck and confused. And when you fall down from heaven, you're going to be covered in clouds and you're going to be confused. So this is about a patient openness to what already is, to the way that things already are. It doesn't matter what you think about it. That's the bluntest way to say. It's just like trying to find the details of the space in the cup. The details are in the cup. The details are apparent. But the space is free of details. And the space is what is useful. So here we're learning, and this is a practical application of using space. And you can't attach to space. It's like you can't attach to non-thinking. That's why everyone is so riled up and compulsively, what about this word? What about that word? What about this word? What about that word? What about when I put these words together in that way and those words together in that way? Because we can attach to all these objects, but you can't attach to non-thought. You cannot attach to non-thought because the you is based in thoughts about thoughts about thoughts about thoughts, or sounds turned into symbols, meaningful symbols. So we're stepping back from all that. Another person on Reddit, I doubt that they're here right now, but another person on Reddit was saying, sometimes when I get into my meditation practice, I get fuzzy, I get dull, I get into this vague kind of, dilapidated state. This is to widen out. This is to step back. This is to not someone, not something, not someone to get something, not someone to be enlightened. It's to unpack and unravel the bindedness of our complicated thinking. And it's not nihilism, it's openness, so it's very inclusive, it's very flexible, but it's also not extremism. You see? So it's not, okay, I've got to be a monk, I've got to be a real serious Buddhist monk practitioner in the forest. And it's also not, I need to be a freewheeling nude hippie, because, well, you said everything is just openness, so let me open myself up. It's the same dualistic nonsense based on craving and attachment to objects. So this kind of spacious awareness, or the way that it already is finished. It's open, it's resolved, and it's based in stillness. Well, it's not based in anything, but not being based in anything is very still, very tranquil, like a river, like an ocean that's not moved up, spread up. You want to know what I've been doing? Go and read The Monk Who Sold Their Ferrari. Go listen to Jay Shetty. This is the best that I can give you, here and now. This is reality. This is my life. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise. I'm not even going to tell me otherwise. That's what I'm here sharing. There's no me, there's no you to be doing anything. It is an appearance. It's like the incense. The movement, subtle movement of the incense or the shadow. Am I me or am I my shadow? Where does my shadow go when I disappear? It's like a mirror facing space. It's like appearances in a mirror facing space. It's clear. It's right there in front of you. But there's no substance in the mirror. There's no thing in the mirror. There's no someone behind this. Just like trying to put the past into a box would be to put the entire universe into a box. And what is a box anyway? A box is just nothing. And what is the universe anyway? It's just nothing. To say it's a thing is to say we can comprehend it, we can grasp it, we can control it, we can keep it. To say it's nothing is to open the box. To be with everything. Everything is specifically nothing. If everything was a thing, it wouldn't be everything. And everything is already everything, without saying it, without talking about it. So this is the heart-to-heart. We build up these egos, these narratives of identity, and then we say, well, I built this up. Mr. Earthquake, don't you dare. Why is there an earthquake today? That's the way that it is. Why did I have a stroke? So this spontaneity, this immediacy of non-thought, no thought, is very accessible, and it's the home of meditation. The knowing is your obstacle. To cut through the knowing, to have enough faith to not know. I was speaking with someone earlier, a young man named Austin, who I helped get off of the streets and, join a monastery, join a kind of spiritual community. And, he's still going through things. He's back in America. He's trying to figure things out. And I said, look, until you can orient yourself or your perception to the ground of awareness, you're going to constantly be taking all of your experiences, your body and your mind, and putting it in a blender and hitting blend. And then putting your hand in there every now and again and eating or giving away what you bring out. So this isn't to blend everything up, to mix everything up into a mush. This is to relax the body and mind into awareness of what already is. And if you can stop it, well, that's not what this is. If you can start it, that's not what this is. This isn't a motorcycle. Reality isn't a motorcycle. Reality isn't an object that contains separation. There's no such thing as separation. There's no such thing as a planet Earth separate from the universe. There's no such thing as that. Fluidity is just something that you contrast with solidity. There's no such thing as fluids and solids in terms of reality or in terms of the nature of direct experience of life as it is. It's not a response. Reality doesn't wait for a response. There's no conflict in reality. There's just appearances of that, according to a discriminating mind. What is the giraffe without the tall tree? What is the water without the desert? What is the moon without the sun? Nothing. And that's the way that it already is. Because there is no moon, there is no sun, there is no you, there is no me already. So this is to teach about right understanding. This is to teach about right view so that you can detach from what you think. So that you can abandon your opinion. So that you can step back from this ego that is acting and reacting according to cause and conditions. This is the nature of generosity. To give, to sacrifice oneself. Jesus on the cross. I died for your sins. I renounced my ego in relationship to your ignorance and attachment. Bada bing, bada boom. Christ on the cross. There is no way to the Father except through me. Isn't that what Jesus said? So it means that you have to detach with what is in front of you. If you go away from what is in front of you, you're in avoidance. If you go towards what's in front of you, you're in chasing and clinging. You have to go through what's in front of you to everything, as it already is. So life as meditation. Not, why aren't you acting in this way? Why aren't we studying the book today? Why aren't we practicing the meditation in the way that I thought that we would? I signed up for this retreat. What's going on here? Get out! I had expectations when I came here. Get out! I'm an American. I'm packing. And so the Buddha did that through renunciation, not through necessarily like outreach, like the way that I would do it, or, kind of different bodhisattva archetype kind of people would approach. You've only studied ignorance and attachment. All of your study has amounted to nothing. Everything that you've built up in your life has amounted to nothing. Brick by brick, you've built the wall of the realization of impermanence, the realization of no self, the realization of no wall. Whether you like it or not, this is the way that it is. It doesn't matter the way that you'd like for it to be. The wisdom, the Vajra, is like a sword. Oh, whoosh. So you say, wait a minute. And in that moment of hesitation or in that moment of protest, the sword goes straight through the bone. And in an instant, life and death are taught to you, shared with you. You don't get to share your opinion. You don't get to have an opinion. You having an opinion, you having a position of authority or power or control is just a part of the appearance, the illusion, the storm. The storm that you attach to as being a thing that you see, that you hear, that you like or that you dislike. Where is like and dislike in the eyes, in the ears, in the nose, in the tongue, in the body, in the mind? Where is like and dislike? It's an illusion. It's a contraction. It's a confusion. It's just an appearance. So we can use the power of impermanence or we can use the power of permanence. So the dinosaurs, for example, they used the power of permanence. Look what happened to them. Imagine if you were a dinosaur. Could you fight against impermanence? No. So we don't fight against impermanence here. We recognize impermanence and we go in accord with the nature of things rather than fixating on appearances. Even the fixation on an appearance is another appearance. We've become locked in the box of being someone who has an opinion, of holding on to views, of thinking that our like or dislike is important. Your liking and disliking is compulsive. You basically have no control over what you like and what you dislike. That's why fraudsters and scamsters and advertising agents and multi-level marketing schemes and everybody who wants to come along and put on a pretty image and convince you of something and build up a convincing image is so successful. Because you are pre-programmed to think that your capacity to be convinced of something, of an appearance, is your free will. That's really what you believe. This is convincing. I like this. I choose this. No, you didn't. They just manipulated you. It appears that way. So here I say, get out. Go. As much as I can. You know, I'm also a human being, apparently. So I also care. Apparently. And yet, impermanence is like that. People come and people go. Health comes and health goes. Money comes and money goes. The identity of being among comes and the identity of being among goes. But if you're locked into this dualism of thinking that it's the good thing or the bad thing, boy oh boy are you in trouble. Because as much as you attach to the good thing, how about this? You want some bad thing? That attachment correlates. That attachment goes together. So we attach to our wealth, get ready to attach to poverty. We attach to pleasure, get ready to attach to pain. We attach to fame, get ready to attach to nobody caring who you are. So these are the chains of attachment. Okay. 5 minutes meditation in the corner, Theo. Hillside Hermitage and their interpretation of the suttas. I don't know. Seems good to me, seems nice to me. That guy's got big biceps and he's got a lot of dogs. So, seems like a cool guy to me. I've never been there, I've never met him. But I think they've probably got a nice thing going on over there. I've thought about visiting before. Thoughts on Christianity? Well, many people here will know my thoughts on Christianity, or some of my expressions related to that. Because it's not just the absolute or the relative, it's not just the good or the bad, but it's how both can be used without attachment. That's the point. You don't go to your carpenter who's 75% finished with the home that you've contracted them to build and say, hey, I came across this monk and he's saying this is all impermanent and you're right, he's right, and you light a match to that building. We can have the best of both worlds. How? With mindfulness and detachment. With generosity and self-sacrifice. It is scary to see and experience the negative side of our ego, the empowered negative version of our ego. It's horrifying. I've gone through that. I've been through that. It's not something you ever want to go. But that ego is just an appearance. And when we learn to work with the ego through generosity, through mindfulness, through a little bit of trial and error, experimentation, we learn how to keep things free. We learn how to keep our body and our mind and our life and our relationships with others established in freedom. Three fetters. What are the three fetters? Three fetters, Buddhism. And we have to break out of this mindset of like this person appearing this way, so that means this and that, and building up all these structures. What if I just took my shirt off and did a little bit of a belly dance? Whoa, whoa! You have to take responsibility for your mind. You being here is your responsibility. Me being here is my responsibility. Why? Because cause and effect. This body and mind, that body and mind, that's a fridge. If I was a fridge, I'd have to be responsible for being a fridge. So you have to be responsible for the way that things are right now. I'm just here as a sharer, as an offerer, as an appreciator of no thought. I appreciate no thought. I appreciate non-discriminatory awareness. No this and that. No higher and lower. And with that, make a stick. Boop, 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 boop. You said you're practicing detachment. You're good. You're good. You ate a cheeseburger. What's going on? I'll try to be vegan one day. Okay, three fetters. Belief in a self, doubt, and attachment to rites and rituals. I'm not feeling any of that right now, as far as I know. If you're a generous person and a virtuous person, and you know how to step back and go for a run or go for a walk that's not about your ego doing it, then I think you're probably going to live a good, happy life, depending on past lives or past causes and conditions that may affect the kind of experiences that you have. Damiano's really coming out of the woodworks here. Do you endorse attention-based meditation or interpret Anapanasati as just knowledge of the breath? That's really nice. Yeah, I mean, the knowledge of the breath is a much better way to say that, I'd say. But it's flexible. You know, the Buddhist Sangha or the community of people who are concerned with this kind of jazz, we can do all kinds of things together. We can build structures, we can open coffee shops, we can talk to different people. You can go into all kinds of different practices and exercises as a way of testing and experimentation to free out whatever it is that's bound up. Whatever it is that appears to be bound up. You know, some people can say it's just nothing, it's just nothing, it's just nothing, but they're also using the toilet. So maybe for you, using the toilet can be going to a meditation retreat or something along, or being a devotee of your guru. You follow your guru. Namo Guru Padmasambhava. Namo Sayadaw Ashin Otamatara. Namo Lumpur. Namo Pomnyan Sunim. Namo Poha Sunim. Namo Master Tikdang Tin. Namo Thai Thich Nhat Hanh. So there's many things. The Western problem is we have a kind of colonizer mindset. You know how we figured out, you know how the white man, my ancestors, used to figure out what was the right meditation and the wrong meditation? A big old axe. A gun. So this kind of approach is very open and very flexible. And it's very limitless, it's very dynamic. And this is a community-based approach. So my position is very much a community-based position. And that empowers me to practice, that empowers me to direct my own life in a certain way, in subtle and not subtle ways. It empowers me to be where I am right now because I'm community built. I'm built by and for community. As a human being generally, and as Rob specifically, formerly Bhante Warapanyo. Community built. And the ideal here, and something that I myself can be very frustrated with in others, is that let's cooperate together. It's not, oh, this is different, or I thought that was bad, or I think that's bad, so now let's go to war. No, now let's take what we do have and cooperate and collaborate. Or at least support, protect, offer consideration. I'm a humble man. I'm a humble young man, 32 years old. Sometimes I forget that. And while I do wish for more opportunity of situations to come up like that. I mean, if I was on with Theo Von, maybe I'd probably be fine, or Joe Rogan, Rob with Joe Rogan. That doesn't really make sense. But the point here, or someone gives me millions of dollars and now I open up a Dhamma-based coffee shop and hostel in South Korea, in Vietnam, something like that, and all these things come together and it's really good idea and it really would go well, etc. And if you snapped your fingers, it would happen, right? Well, that's fine. Let's snap, 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 snap. But what is already is enough. And what's going to come out of that body and mind or this body and mind is always going to be subject to and arising from ever new impermanent nature. So instead of fixating on our capacity for intelligent, consistent action, why don't we fixate on the non-fixation of wisdom? Wisdom of impermanence, wisdom of no self, wisdom of suffering. We get all riled up, we get all interested to build something and create something, and then an earthquake happens. The earthquake is already happening. This is the earthquake. Hubba lubba lubba wubba wubba. This is the earthquake. Don't get me speaking in tongues again. Okay, earlier in our recent live session this morning, we did have some speaking in tongues come about. Everything's good. Everything's fine. You know, it's inclusive. But it's inclusive with mindfulness and detachment. It's inclusive with being a deeply generous and open human being. It's inclusive with being deeply mindful and deeply willing to detach, or to dare to do what you cannot do, and to dare to not do what you could do, and to establish and develop oneself in that. To establish oneself in the stillness and in the wakefulness and in the presence of mindfulness with detachment. In timeless, spacious reality. You got it, Theo. Reed says, do you have any stories from your days in the Zen Monastery Meditation Center? It's just confronting the mind. And when you confront the mind and have a waking dream nightmare experience that's as real can be, and then you see that disappear, nobody can tell you anything different. Because you've had a lived experience that you were aware of. You were there the whole time being aware. And you see that dissolve. Something that only you experienced. Something that only you went through. And it appears out of nowhere and it disappears to nowhere. And then we unlock our fear mechanism to a certain extent. Hey, scary mind, come and get me. Gang stalkers, where you guys been lately? Hey, FBI, can you pull up the radio transmitter van? It doesn't mean that we're asking for a fight, but we're fearless, flexible and fearless. Open to adversity, open to change, and knowing that whatever arises is fundamentally impermanent and will always be impermanent. Yeah, I've also been curious about this duality, but I lean a little bit on the of Zen and a kind of non-dualistic approach. And then I listened to a talk from Ajahn Sona about how you can even become a Sotapanna or a Sakyagami And really, these scriptures and teachings are very old, very esoteric, and there can be a lot of differentiating views between well-regarded masters. My position is just follow the path, don't overthink it, and wake up to where I already am, which is not someone being not somewhere all the time. Yeah, I mean, we support each other in all kinds of different subtle ways. None of the path is about thinking about things. You don't get anywhere on this path. I mean, I've met a lot of people. I've been to a lot of different centers. You don't get anywhere on this path until you sacrifice. And the way that they get around that or work with that in the general Buddhist world is that you'll have lay people that maybe don't even meditate, but they develop this kind of very strong relationship with very experienced or very senior monks, and they build temples, and they cultivate a lot of merit, right? They cultivate a lot of bun by donating. And so that's how they create this continual association with the path and with the wholesome states of mind. They like plant a lot of good seeds. But to actually get the insight, you have to go beyond giving with expectation, and you have to go into giving through renunciation. And that's what kind of real meditation is, and that's why the Buddha emphasized so strongly to become a monastic, to renounce your life, because there's really no other way to get around it. There's really no other way to experience the depth of willing openness to loss. Right? It's like you break a contradiction in that. It should be impossible to do that. But what you realize in that is that that thing was never there to begin with. You never held that thing. You never owned your health. You never owned your status. You never owned your position. You never owned your car. But you can't really experience that until you give it up, until you renounce it. You never owned your own life. There was never a you to begin with. And so when we renounce our lives for a short term or for a long term, we go outside of the spectrum of our own identity and everything that that identity has been built on and established itself in. So that could be going and being a monk. It could also being to be a volunteer at a meditation center for the long term, practicing meditation seriously, with guidance, with support. It's not actually about thinking about things. Thoughts can be used as a way of generating like wholesome states of mind or good intentions. Theo, I want you to take a 10-minute timeout. 10-minute meditation session, okay? Just close your eyes, breathe, and listen. No commenting. This is something that I do work with because Luca talking about the viewer count going up, slowly going up, and the same with, sometimes I feel really tired or really, out of it, then I have a cup of coffee and I'm juiced up. So a problem or a suffering that I've had in my own mind is, well, why can't I just be juiced up all the time? Why can't I just be inspired all the time? And why can't I be completely enlightened? Why can't I be the God of the universe? Why can't I have six-pack abs and be super strong and super fit? So that that the point is just to use without attachment. If you can use what is here and now without attachment, it's not going to be a problem. If you can't give up what you hold on to, it's going to be a problem. And this isn't for us to judge each other. This is more like a principle for us to make sure that we're aligned with. So we recognize that if I lose this, that's okay. As far as I know, we don't have to push ourselves to be some kind of extremist ascetic, burying our heads in the grounds or saying, I can't drink coffee, I have to, I have to drink from puddles on the ground or puddles in the dirty sink water because, I can't, on an Indian train full of what appears to be feces, because I can't take anything. I can't do anything. I just have to be zen, zen, zen. It's a balanced, open, flexible approach of doing good with mindfulness and without attachment, without holding on. You can go fast, but you got to know how to let go. You have to know how to slow down. Otherwise, that going fast is going to be a big problem. If you know how to donate, know how to not donate. If you know how to not donate, know how to donate. If you know how to volunteer, I'm not joking. I'm not saying this as a joke or with some kind of deeper intentions. If you know how to volunteer, if you know how to listen to what someone else says, know how to not volunteer. Know how to not listen to what someone else says. If you don't know how to volunteer, know how to volunteer. So we learn to use the power of everything. And that means we don't get stuck or locked into this kind of archaic device of we do things in this particular way just because. Don't. Whatever you can do, be able to not do that. Whatever you cannot do, be able to do that. And we don't need to shoot ourselves up into the stratosphere of, all these things, it's a good that I shouldn't do, but I have to do it, and it's bad, it's not about that. It's just we dare to go beyond our limits. We're open to not being limited. Then we learn through testing and experimenting. Yeah, we have to balance with all that because it's you can't just be chasing people around on the street trying to help them, or if someone's chasing you around on the street, you can't just be subject to that person just because they're chasing you. So do freely and test and experiment. It's not a black and white thing. It's impersonal. It's concerned with the path of mindfulness and detachment and of renunciation and freedom from clinging to anything, to anyone. 110%. That can be very uncomfortable. Can also be very comfortable. One's not better than the other. I see my teacher, Seattle, sometimes he's, it's 3 a.m. He's skinny as a dog with pneumonia in the street. He's sweating bullets. He's being asked questions from people. I know he's been up since, the break of dawn, being force-fed, basically. And how can you do that? It's because it's a realization that it's not about doing this or doing that. It's not about this or that. And a great thing to do, and a very important lesson that I've been practicing recently, because I've got all kinds of ideas going in my mind about what am I going to do next? How am I going to move forward in my life? Is to just let this cause and effect that's concerned with mindfulness and detachment and doing good deeds and wisdom and compassion, let that flow. I was thinking about going to a very intensive Zen meditation retreat in America this month. That was going to be like full days of labor and a lot of interaction with Western practitioners, new and and they accepted me. They invited me to go and join for a month. And I said, right now my practice is just to be where I am. And if I'm putting all this energy into going to another place and trying to do something and trying to help myself, then why don't I just stay where I am and be open and allow not someone to be prevalent, because I know I'm not falling into kind of addictive behaviors or what have you. So just to allow it to be and not seek to fix or to solve or to help or to support or whatever. And then from that space is where my real support or real inclination or real discernment is at its fieriest, at its clearest. We do our best and forgive ourselves. That's what we do. That's what I do. Yeah, just don't think about it like that. If you die, you die. If you can say, hey, I'm okay that I'm going to die. That's a starting point for being open to death. Whatever death is. We don't know what death is because we're alive. So whatever death is, may I be open to that without needing complicated thinking to try to make up or assume up what death is. So this person says, do you have any tips on where to start? I mean, there is so much information on the internet that I seriously don't know what is serious, works, and what not. I've been exploring mindfulness a bit to reduce my stress level from work, but I want to start doing something seriously. Thank you. So, best advice that I can give is to invite you to have a call with me, and I can share some recommendations and maybe see where you're at. I'm also live on YouTube right now, so you can come and connect that way. I just don't have a better answer than that. And I wish that I did. But that's what I needed. And that's what I offer. And that's what I didn't have. So, that work of purifying what is already not actually there is all the more important. So that we can be that well, really that well of mindfulness and compassion for the purest among us, for those baby ones, for those children, for those disaffected people. Okay. Do we have any other questions or sharing experience? I think one of the big problems that comes into my own mind and a lot of people's minds on the spiritual path is this idea of enlightenment without conditionality, enlightenment without conditions. So people are kind of trying to chase after Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. They're not even comfortable with being a Buddha, and this is kind of the nature of the ego, but they want to be a Buddha without conditions. And this is just not what the path is. So learn how to take care of your life, to find the balance with the pain and the pleasure of the body and the pleasantness and the unpleasantness of the mind and all the neutralness or all the boredom that is there. And drop this idea of you becoming someone who doesn't have to navigate the pain of the body, who doesn't have to navigate being bored, who doesn't have to navigate experiencing pleasure. Drop this idea of this someone who escapes from that and instead take responsibility and actually become interested and open to transforming your life through not being okay, not being complacent, but being open to everything that goes on in your life and stop labeling, because we go into these periods of up and down and a little bit depressed and a little bit energetic, a little bit we feel like ourselves, a little bit we feel like we're off mark. Stop making judgments about all that and allow yourself and allow your mind and your awareness to go into that and to brighten that and to say that there's not a problem for me to feel that way, but that this is how I feel. This is how the body feels right now. This is how the mind feels right now. And I'm awake, I'm aware. How can I work with this? How can I play with this? How can I not create another big knot in my mind that knocks me out for a day or two or a week or a month or a year, as I know some people have gone through and experienced. The clearest sign that you're actually on the path and you're following a good enough teacher, or you're practicing in a good enough way, there's basically only one way to determine that. More wholesome states of mind that you're not getting overly ego identified with. So not developing spiritual narcissism, which is not really a good sign. And you're having less of these unwholesome states of mind. That doesn't mean you don't have a day of being depressed or a week or what have you, but you can see that over time you're finding your balance, you're finding your blessing path. You're finding that the field is ripe for cultivation and you're taking advantage of that. So before we finish, I invite everyone here to step back a little bit from watching this person on the screen. I also can see them there, and step back from that into the spacious awareness of the body-mind. And when that big, bad ego comes to knock, and knocks for me quite often, see if you can relax. And be open to the voice of space. And be open to patience. A big bad ego commenter, it really thrives on our lack of patience. I think it keeps us from that real fleshy transformation to take place. So just stepping back and orienting towards that voice of space that's not quite loud, not quite quiet, but just undeniably is. Thank you, friends. See you again soon.